Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Act Together Global Voices podcast. I'm your amazing host. Hopefully, you all loved me from last time, Arshad, and I cannot wait to dive into this next topic today with our amazing guests. It's going to be very exciting. There's a bunch of things that we have to talk about, and as I mentioned, we have some incredible guests to talk to us about the topics. So, before diving in and letting you guys know what we're talking about today, I would like to pass the mic and allow our guests to introduce themselves. So, who are you guys?
Wow, okay. First of all, hurrah for the amazing intro you made. And second of all, I'm Stasha. I come from Serbia. I'm currently studying my bachelor degree at architecture at University of Belgrade. I'm also a youth activist and mental health advocate for like young people in Serbia. Besides that, I'm trying to work my business career off and everything. Um, and yeah, kind of workaholic, but that's part of imposter syndrome. We're going to talk about. Oh, okay. Anyway, yeah,
Surprise.
that's me. Spoiler alert.
Thank you, Stasha. Little spoiler there, but it's fine. And next we have Emily.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Emily. I am from Wales in the UK. I am currently a junior account executive at a technology PR company. But my relation to this kind of podcast is that for the last 13 years of my life, I've been involved in multiple different youth work organisations, from Funky Dragon all the way up to the UK Youth Parliament and even CATS and the starting stages of Act Together. So a lot of time involved in this kind of stuff and a lot of experience that are going to relate to the topic today.
Thank you, Emily. And yeah, now that you put into perspective, a lot of time it's been a long time. Well, yeah, that's incredible. And like Stasha has spoiled, today we're going to want to talk about something called imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome, we're just to put it out there, none of us are trained professionals. I'm training to be a professional, but I'm not there yet, so don't take my word fully. But imposter syndrome is something that we're interested in talking about primarily because, as Stasha also mentioned, mental health and mental well-being is something that we're very passionate about, both within our foundation and that together, but also all of the young people that we've had the chance to work with. They all have said how important mental health and well-being is to them, especially in light of just things that have happened in the past, like the COVID pandemic and how that affected everything. And so, yeah, a lot of young people wanted to talk about mental well-being and address that through our Global Voices projects that we've done and through this podcast. So that's why we're here today. Imposter syndrome is one of those mental well-being topics within that umbrella that we wanted to address, because imposter syndrome is something that a lot of people may feel, but may not truly understand why they feel that way, or may not actually understand what it is. And so I guess my first question to you guys is, in your own words or from your own perspective, what does imposter syndrome mean to you?
Yeah, it's a very broad,
Okay, Emily should start.
kind of a broad feeling, a broad description, because I think it's different with everyone. Personally, I would say that imposter syndrome is kind of when you're in a situation and you don't feel like you deserve to get there, and that you are surrounded by people who you think have worked harder than you, deserve it more than you, and that you've kind of got this self-doubt in what you're doing and what you have actually achieved. And feeling it can be really, really hard, because you could have worked just as hard as anybody else to get there, but for some reason you're telling yourself you don't deserve to be there.
In the simplest of terms, self-deprecating.
I haven't really thought about what are the steps that you are like taking to get like to feeling anxious, like why do we get there, like. But for me, I think that it's more of feeling that we're not enough, as Emily said. So feeling not enough is something that is maybe caused by those like fast fashion things and Instagram and all the things that are happening. And fast forward to today, we have all those things of anxieties and also traumas that our parents are not trained for, or environment, so we're not prepared to deal with this. So I really think that, I don't know, imposter syndrome for me is something that we all have. And by definition, it's a simple like feeling that is not so uncommon as we think. Like it happens for, I think, all of us every now and then, maybe once in a day. So it's really alarming to just have that
Yeah,
feeling.
no, I think for me as well, it's as you mentioned, it's something that is quite self-deprecating, like you said, Emily. It's something that holds you back a lot of the time because it sort of prevents you in a way from achieving what you believe you can achieve or what you want to set out to achieve. And being from the Learning for Wellbeing Foundation, it's something that's quite interesting to me actually, because for us, a lot of our approach, let's say, looks at how you can just be your whole self and how you can act, how you can use your emotions, etc., your mind. Um, and imposter syndrome, I feel, is something that is quite limiting in that sense because it can affect a lot of those things about you. Like you said, in a scenario where you may feel that you're not as deserving as the people around you, sometimes physically you're just trapped in a sense and you're not able to initiate something or do something. Say you're working on a project and you feel that other people are more entitled to be there or they should be there more than you, it makes you not want to engage in that project as much. And I feel like that's something that's quite limiting actually, because the reason you're there is hopefully you are passionate about the project and you have something that you want to contribute. But then something like imposter syndrome might stop you from engaging in that way and doing what you want to do. So I'm not sure if you guys have experienced anything like that before, or what your guys' thoughts are on something like that and how imposter syndrome can be quite limiting actually.
I think it's very easy to feel it for the first time as a young person in studies.
Mm.
So when you're choosing what you want to do for your degree, or in the UK what you want to do for your A levels or your GCSEs or anything like that, you can really hold yourself back by seeing what others around you are doing and just thinking that you're not as good as them and not applying yourself to do it because you've instantly made the assumption that, oh, I'm not as good as they are, so I automatically can't choose to do triple science, or I can't go on to study biology or medicine because I'm not as smart as them or I don't work as hard as them, so I can't do that. When in reality, it's absolutely not like that. And if you flip that kind of conversation with yourself and said, well, I can work that hard and I do, and I am that smart, I can do it, I can do anything that they can do, I shouldn't hold myself back. It's the complete opposite, and you would apply yourself more and you'd actually want to go out and do these things rather than hold yourself back. And I do think from conversations with friends and stuff, that is kind of one of the first instances where a lot of people feel it and it's part of your life.
Yeah, I just want to relate that how you said that we first experience this when we are like doing and making important decisions in our lives, like which can really affect us and our future. So I don't know when the first time I had that was, but I really know that I didn't have these troubles when I was a kid. Like as a kid, I don't know if it's because your parents are like cheering you up or something, but anytime you accomplish something, you are happy. But also when you fail, it's not that big of a trouble. Like, but when you grow up, I think that when people like, I know. I think that our society just lack some tolerance and also like reassurance and support. Like I really, I had trouble at university, like that I'm not enough because I don't know. There are many students who are from art schools that came to study like architecture and everything, and I came from like different school. So I was really insecure, and all the people who were telling me to start getting better and myself, I really pushed myself, like so far. So I really needed time to just step back and see, and reflect on all of the things that I learned, and also like how far I've come and how far I can go. So now that I have like different people around me, and people at my university and at my job that are really like trying to explain to me that making mistakes is a way to learn and is an amazing way to just like, um, be yourself and try to give as much as effort or just contribution to the topic you can, is really important. Now I'm not afraid to make fool of myself or just like, do something fun. But before, and exactly when you said like exactly 15, 16 years when you're trying to start your life and do all those exams and enroll at university after, those are the years that are like, I think most young people are most vulnerable
Mm.
for the environment.
I think
Yeah.
what you said is very interesting to me because like you said, when you're younger, usually you don't notice these things, and you're, even if you make a mistake here or there, it's like, oh, yeah, cool, okay, yeah, carry on. What what's for lunch?
Just so that my
Yeah,
parents don't bother me. Like that
because
was the
that's the
biggest
thing. I think
problem.
that's why I found it quite interesting, because I feel like, from my perspective, upbringing wise, I think obviously there's all these other factors that go into it, like culture, where you're from, etc., etc. But for me, it was quite, not fully opposite, but it's quite different to you. I feel like even when I was younger, there was instances where you had to do something, and if you couldn't do it, then something's wrong with you. So be that you had to get good grades at school, and if you can't get good grades, something's wrong with you. And so it elicits a lot of, I guess, from a young age at times, emotionally, that could come up, that can bring up a lot of things like anxiety or shame, in a sense. Shameful that you aren't the way that people are telling you you're meant to be. And I think that in itself brings out a level of imposter syndrome, because at that point in life you don't know what you want to be realistically, or a lot of people don't, because they're still learning about the world, they're still learning about themselves. And so I feel like at a young age like that, it's quite different, because people are telling you who you're meant to be. You don't really have a sense of your own purpose and what you want to set out to achieve. And so, in that sense, imposter syndrome can again be quite limiting, maybe, or it can affect you in ways and sort of put you in a box, I guess, which sounds very sad, actually, now that
Yeah.
I mentioned. But I think again, it's quite interesting to see how, like, the different perspectives, because you've had a very different experience in that. And so I don't know, what are some of your guys' thoughts on why that might be the case and what the differences are? Mm,
I just wanted to add with what you said, like you should all, like we all should have great grades and everything. I think that when you're like a kid and at school, um, everyone are trying to
mm,
compare you with other kids and like to just try to make you better. So it can also start for many kids, like from the really young age, like feeling these um, I don't know how to just explain it, but this feeling of
mm,
self awareness that you have to respond to yourself as well as to others. Maybe it's because some, I don't know, um, some things that are happening in your nearest environment, like in your family, so you have to be much
mm,
stronger for yourself, and that you're not secure enough or something. But this comparing is something that we should really stop doing, because I know I am from a small city, and in my city like everybody knows each other. So I was always like the best student, like, everything doing at the time. I formed my NGO when I was like 14,
oh,
15 years old. Like I was the CEO of NGO when I was 17 and everything. So it was pretty easy to just do something that you
mm,
really like, that is fun, to make connections, because it's a small community. And then when I got to the like bigger environment, the people who are like really sharks, and nobody
mm,
prepared you for that. They all told you like you're good, and then the storm comes and you learn all the things that happen in the world, that people are not how they're supposed to be and everything, and you just um, all those pictures about the world are like
Mm.
crashed. So you have to build everything up from the ashes. So for me that happened. Like I had all these images of an amazing life I'm gonna have, and then now I'm trying to, when you're 18, 19, 20, you really, I don't know, I got disappointed at myself, at other people. So thinking that we're not enough and that we don't have expertise or competence is really common for people at this age, because they're getting more
Mm.
self-aware and everything.
And I guess, like you said, it's that impact from the environment that you're surrounded in. I think that plays a big part on how you're feeling and how you're doing. Like you said, moving from your smaller city where you were able to basically do whatever you wanted. You became a CEO of your own NGO. Like that's incredible. But then, like you said, being put out into a different environment, then it became a lot more challenging. And you mentioned like people were like sharks, and just they didn't really, yeah, it didn't really enable you to act the same way. Maybe is that what you were getting at in terms of like how, if like say right now in the environment you're in, and say you weren't at university, like if you set out to try and create your own NGO now, how do you feel that would go?
Wow. um, I never thought of that, because we managed to somehow keep with our NGO like till this day. We just moved it from smaller city to bigger city. So now we're
Mm,
all kind of grown up and we know what we're doing. But forming an NGO here um, now would be easy, because we have like
mm,
networks, we know people, we know who could help us, we know how to do things. The hardest part was
mm,
to learn how to write projects, how to find partners, how to manage projects, how to write, I know, reports. But now for me it would be easy, because I'm living here for 2 years now, and I today this is my comfort zone, so I learned how to live. But if I had, I don't know, to try something new, uh, I wouldn't have time for that. I think that I at some point I lost myself trying to make place for me here, because I gave up some things that I did before, and now I really miss them. So I know
mm,
I was a basketball referee, and I stopped doing that because of university. So now I feel like I know the things that they are doing when I watch the game, but I have not enough expertise
mm,
to give my opinion, because I stopped doing that. So when I want to say something or to get into the argument or something with somebody else about the game, for instance, I cannot, and I hold myself back, because I'm like, you're not, you know, into this topic enough, even though you're doing research and everything. But it's just the feeling of the competence and lack
mm.
of confidence in explaining something. And
Wow, I think that you mentioned something there that I want to come back to, but I also wanted to just hear from Emily quickly, because I feel like for you, you've also had like this extensive amount of experience in like you mentioned, the youth work that we've done through different organizations you've been a part of, coming up to graduating from university and now working where you do work. I think in terms of what we've been discussing in the imposter syndrome sense and the environment you're surrounded by, what are your thoughts? Have you had any challenges there? Has it been easier for you?
I think I remember sitting down to do the ADHD diagnosis, and the practitioner asked me, she was like,
Mm,
why do you want the diagnosis? And it was kind of, I just kind of want to understand myself a bit more. And having this understanding of myself has definitely helped me overcome those feelings of imposter syndrome, and that I don't deserve to be here, or the struggle that I have doing the things I see my peers doing and don't
mm,
think that I can do, because I kind of understand myself better. But I 100% get those feelings. Like I'll be sending something off to a journalist or pitching something, or I don't know, anything in my day-to-day job, and I still get a moment of, oh, this is terrible, I don't even know why I'm bothering trying, because I've seen what the person sat next to me can do, and I think it's 10 times better, when the reality is it's exactly the same. It's just amazing, and you're like, you've got all these responses and whatever. There's a lot of the confidence and the self-doubt that comes wound up in it, and you can think one day you're doing really whatever you need done, and then all of a sudden the next day you've got none, and it kind of puts you back in that position of, I don't know how I got here, why did I bother studying, why did I bother doing this, because obviously I'm not very good at it because everybody else is better than me. But they're definitely a lot more diminished.
I just wanted to relate to what she said, that you think like you see the other person doing something and you think that necessarily that person is better than you just because you made that in your head. Once I was on an exam and I learned
So you looked at
like
other people during
literally
your exam.
anything, and I was doing
You looking at other people
things.
during your
What?
exam? Isn't that cheating?
No, no, look, yeah, I wanted to cheat, and
We
but
do
I
not
learned
advocate cheating.
everything, but I was
Audience at
so
home, we don't advocate
insecure.
cheating. If you're watching
What?
this, young person, child, please don't cheat. Hard work is better.
No, the point is to trust yourself with your knowledge, because um, not everyone are better than you. Like, yeah, there's some person that is better than you, and you should learn from that person and try to get as much knowledge and experience as you can, but also like trust yourself and your like response to the situation, because not like always others ways are better than yours. That was just the point of
No,
the
yeah, no, I 100% agree,
story.
because I think it's, as I mentioned, there was something you said before that I wanted to touch on, and this actually fits in quite nicely. I think one of the things is how we view ourselves and how that has an impact on the work we do, the way we act, etc., etc. And I think part of it is also in allowing ourselves to, like you mentioned, Stasha, learn from other people. And it's not a case of, oh, they can do the job better than me, and so they should do the job. It's more, I value how they do this, I value how they do that. I can bring this to the table, but what can I do to improve on myself to enable me to be even better? And like you said, Emily, a lot of the time it's not even the case of they are better than me. It's just in your head. Yeah. And I think that in itself, again, is quite limiting, because it stops you in a way. It's like yourself stopping yourself from being who you truly can be and achieving that potential that you have. And it was funny because there was something that I wanted to try with you guys, because I feel like that links a lot to imposter syndrome and your sense of self and stuff like that. And so what I wanted to ask you guys is, what is your purpose? And I know that's a very big question, and it's okay if you don't have the answer, but it's just something interesting that I felt it would be nice to ask, because I feel like a lot of people don't really sit back and allow themselves to think, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I doing? So if you guys are happy to try, and even if you guys don't have an answer, that's fine. I have an activity we can do to help get an answer. But if you guys have had a chance to think about that before, or have any thoughts now that you want to share, feel free.
I think it's really easy to kind of go to the automatic. I think my purpose is to help people and to do good to the world and all this kind of stuff. Everyone wants to do that. That's just being a human. But when it comes down to what my actual purpose is in life, or as a person, or as a friend, as a partner, I have no idea. I'm just going with the flow every single day and just hope that the outcome is what it's meant to be. Is my honest answer.
Yeah, actually, in a way, my life motto is going quite well with this topic. I actually would like to just become the best version of myself, because I really feel the responsibility for myself and for the peoples who like encouraged me and gave me so much of their energy and time, just to, at first it was to prove them that I am like worth of their trying, but now it just to make them proud, like my family, my friends, who literally were there on any step of the way. So for me, that's the purpose. And that's why I really have this imposter syndrome. But I would really like to do your like quiz because I was so
Yeah.
curious and I was intrigued with
Okay.
what you have to say. So you can first say
Oh,
what is your purpose, and then
okay. The question's thrown back on me. What is my purpose? I think for me, it's something that I'm still searching for. I think I have some ideas, but it's also something that's not necessarily ever changing. But I know that me as a person, I'm still changing, and so there's still things that I need to learn about myself to help me achieve that ultimate sense of purpose, in a sense, and help me be the best version of myself that I can be. Um, but let's move on from me. Let's move on to the activity, as you mentioned, Stasha, because basically it's a simple activity. It's not too hard, and it would be better if we had like material to use, because this is something that we've pulled out of the We Are Here toolbox, which is something Learning for Being helped create, and it's a cool activity where it just helps us get closer to an understanding of what we're passionate about and what our sense of purpose may be. It's not a definitive answer, so I'm I'm not going to change your life today. Maybe, maybe not. But it just helps put you in a certain direction, and hopefully, if you continue down that direction, you may reach a point where you have discovered your sense of purpose, and then naturally other things will start falling into place. Maybe your well-being, your mental well-being will improve because now you can hopefully feel less of that imposter syndrome and more have feelings that are pushing you towards saying, okay, this is what I want to do. How can I get better at doing that? Let's go. But yeah, enough of me talking. Let's get to it. So for this, I am going to ask you 3 questions, one by one. So I won't tell you all of the questions straight away. I'll just tell you the first question. Well, yeah, the first question for now. So the first question, what are some things in your guys' lives that bring you a sense of joy or a feeling of being helpful? You can take your time. I feel like I need to get like the countdown clock, make it a game show.
Something that has brought me a lot of joy in my life and has made me feel maybe like I have a sense of purpose is when I was really quite involved with a lot of youth work stuff. Even when I was past that age bracket of being a young person, the stereotypical like under 18,
Whoa,
I
we're still
still
young.
really, I hope, I still really, really enjoyed being able to be a voice and a bit of an activist and use what I had spent all of my teenage years learning and listening to and taking on board and helping produce and helping improve and continuing that on.
I'm just not clear. Was the question like every day what gives you the joy, or just like some experience
That's
which happened
completely up
in
to
the
you.
year
I think
past?
it's just whatever comes to mind. What are some things in your life that bring you joy or make you feel like you're able to provide a service?
Well, for me, like when you're at university, everything you do is somehow caused by the exams and by the necessity of itself, not just because you like to do everything at university. But for a while, I had really struggled with the people around me at university. I just like I had lack
Hmm.
of confidence in people. So it was just one night when I got a call from a friend who just literally asked me like, "Hello, how are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I'm packing my stuff to go home for for
Hmm.
Easter, yeah." And he was like, "Well, would you like to work?" And I'm like, "What? I'm 20 years old. I mean, I have worked before, like I work at my NGO, but for me, working with NGOs is
Hmm.
in my blood, and just like I like to do that, and it's the way of who I am. But like working in your expertise and being like this." this big for me and grown up. I was like, what? And he was, yeah, would you like to work this and that? And I was amazing. He was like, well, I gave to my friend like your number. He's gonna contact you. I told a great word about you and everything. And then a guy called me, and fast forward to this day, I'm working there. So for me, give when I sit at that office and thinking about like, would a little me like from 4 or 5 years ago would be proud of me like
Mm.
for doing all those things. And I know that maybe today I'm not happy because I feel that I'm not enough for myself, but I definitely know that I'm more than enough for the girl who was like in that small city 5 years ago. So for me, that's really what gives me joy every day to do.
Okay, so just just help me understand your answer a bit. So you feel a sense of joy in the achievement that you've made reaching this point and the growth.
Yeah, at how far along I've come, just and even if today I haven't
Mm.
done anything like that important, just the feeling that I'm living the
Yeah,
life that I
I
really
guess it comes
wanted.
back to what you said before in terms of like that personal growth. So what brings you joy in a sense from what I'm hearing is being able to grow and improve and become a better version of yourself compared to who you were yesterday, maybe something like that, which is, I think, very cool. Actually, I think it's a good mindset to have, and I'm very appreciative of that. But okay, let me make it harder. Let's go on to the second question. So the second thing is, think for yourself. What are some of the things happening in my family or my community or the world today that I'm deeply passionate about?
In a lot of different ways, leaving the planet off better than I found it. So whether that be doing my part in climate change or working towards or donating towards or aiding in any sort of way, like just kind of making an imprint on the planet and leaving it better than I found it for those who come after.
Okay, very interesting.
For me, it just simply like contributing to better policy making in my country, to better position of the young people. That's what I'm like currently working on. Just trying to help my peers at university to, do the things. I'm part of the university parliament, so that's also a point where I do like my activist work. And yeah, I would also like to mention that for me, really important thing is to just stay close with my family because we are really far away. So besides doing activist work for helping policymaking and
Mm.
lobbying, I am really passionate about just like keeping connection with everyone around me and my friends who are really close to me. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I can understand that. I think I have similar feelings. Um, but just to delve into your answer a bit more, you're quite passionate about policy making and lobbying, etc. Is there any specific policies or some stuff like that you've considered or you feel passionate about?
Well, it's not actually the policy I'm interested. It's the lack of policy making for
Ah,
young
okay.
people that I'm interested. And for the part when young people are leaving this country for in look for a better life. So for me, it's more to just try to give them a reason to stay. To just, you know, because I would like to stay here. And for me, that just to improve this environment like really. And my country, I just like the way it is, but it could be better
Very
anyway.
interesting. See, yeah.
I mean, lack of policy making means that we got our first strategy
Mm,
on young, like on youth,
wow.
10 years ago, which is really concerning. Keeping in mind that first policy making for young people was made back like 50 years
Mm.
ago or more, like when young people are being, you know, I don't know, when my granddad was young.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm saying I think I'm saying it's very interesting because I know what the third question is, and I'm going to ask you that soon. But it's obviously this process is more for yourselves to think about and reflect on, because ultimately you know yourself best. But it's interesting to me hearing your responses, both of you, what you said, and seeing for me how that makes sense in my head and how that links together. And it's quite interesting to see how it's quite reflective of how I know you both as people. So I think that's quite interesting. I think it's very fun. So wow, maybe learning from being, we did something right. But let's move on to the third question then, just to help you guys complete the process. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I just want to say that we've done this with Arshad for a very long time. And even if he has a feeling that he knows me, I haven't heard about him and
You
his
have it?
experiences a lot. So I'm just coming here and hoping that one day I
Am
will
I
hear something from him
am I
or maybe
mysterious?
interview him.
I well, maybe one day you can. Maybe we'll flip the table. I think I'll ask you guys the third question, and then we'll see if there's time to ask me three questions, and I'll try go through that. But okay, let's move on to the third question. So, think back to your answers from questions 1 and 2, and now try answer this. Where are the places where my feelings of joy and feelings of service, as well as the things I'm passionate about in the world and what the world needs, where do they meet? I think, what links can you see that naturally come from some of your responses to the first question that you answered, in terms of your what makes you happy, what brings you joy, and the second question, which is what you're deeply passionate about?
Um, I'm deeply passionate about learning and improving, self improvement. So one day I would like, with all those things about helping others and helping young people have a reason to stay, my like a big wish is to finish my PhD and to one day maybe be a professor and be one of the cool ones, because now I have such
Mm.
a great professors who just make you want to learn those stuff that you just have to. So I want to be to somebody else that tomorrow, or just have my own office and my own like bureau or something, so that I can work and also help other young people, like donate or something like that. So I think that it's a really it's really close things, when you have to work on something and when you want to help, like you can really help and
Mm.
do all those work. For me, it's do private business and also help young people donate, but also like teach them or give them like internships, or just be the person that I need now. Maybe that's the right term
No,
to,
I
you know.
can see that. I can see that in terms of like becoming maybe like an educator that can help support and train young people to help them find their sense of selves, help create change, lobby policies, all of this, just to help people improve in their region, and help young people want to stay, like you said, and grow and develop where you're from. And I think that's really cool. And the way that
Education
yeah
really does help with
yeah
everything.
I think it's quite interesting how you reached that, from the process, how you reached that. And I think, trying to bring it back to the theme of the podcast, I think in the sense of imposter syndrome, do you feel like an imposter by trying to achieve that? Or is there anything that's limiting you on the way to achieving that goal?
Was it, I think that it should
Mm.
be a question for
Yeah.
both of us, like Emily and me together. So I would let first Emily.
Basically, Stasha wants time to think.
In
Interesting.
in response to the like third question,
Mm.
I know I joked and I was like, "Oh, in the government."
Yeah.
Um, to sound, I don't know, I suppose it sounds very like hippie-ish, but like
Mm.
the way that the things I said to question 1 and question 2 kind of linked was to kind of make myself a vessel for change
Mm.
and change for the people that come after me. In ways of imposter syndrome, that's just kind of like to get over the imposter syndrome of that, because if you view yourself as this kind of really important figure for change, it's going to be very easy to let yourself sink into that kind of I'm not worthy mindset. But to overcome that, it's just seeing the benefit and the value of your thoughts and your opinions and your actions actually have. And when you utilize them in the right place and the right time, you can really make this kind of impact. And it relates a lot to what Stasha said as well, where you can become an educator and you're teaching these people these things, and if you're actively going out and lobbying and actively going out and making these changes, then it can kind of help you overcome that vision of yourself where you've got imposter syndrome and you're not worthy and not don't deserve to be doing what you're doing.
Actually, I think that for me, or for young people, at least at my country, we usually compare or somehow make relations between others' response or other causes and inner, because I know my feeling of anxiety doesn't come really from, at first didn't come from feeling that I'm not enough, but it was from feeling that I am frustrated at not like meeting other goals or not meeting other standards, or and so then I put my standards for myself higher than maybe I should. And it is really important for you to know how far you can go. I mean, yeah, the sky is a border, but at that point you really need somebody who will give you like a push and wine in the back. But for young people, the thing happens when they get frustrated from others' responses. I know, for example, I lost faith in myself first when um, I didn't I didn't manage to finish the lobbying the way I wanted, for example, or policy making. And I just felt like all those months of trying, like half a year of making, just fell into the water. So that's when I was like, well, what if I'm not enough, or what if I cannot change? So for me, the only way out from this was to get educated, to give myself to become the best version, so that I could tomorrow be the one who would uh, give the permission, not permissions, okay, this sounds really bad, but just like the one who could help and the one who could listen to others instead of trying to give answers. So that is, I think, the way out from for people who come from really small communities like I do.
Yeah. No, I think it's very, for me, it's very interesting that you say that, because it's like coming back to the whole imposter syndrome side of things. It's sort of, in a way, this is your way of overcoming that imposter syndrome, because you have a sense of purpose, you have a goal, and rather than being bogged down or being prevented from achieving that because of whatever circumstance or situation, instead instead of feeling shame or anxiety or blah blah blah, you told yourself, okay, let me educate myself on how I can improve in this and that, so that I'm in a better position to set out to achieve what I want to achieve. And so it's quite interesting, because it sort of appears that you have, more so than maybe some others, achieved that sense of, you have an understanding of what your sense of purpose is and what you want to set out to do in life, and that's made it easier in a way for you to start doing what you want to do.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that
Of
I
course,
don't
of
have
course.
insecurities or that I don't have anxiety. I have
Mm,
such a big anxiety every day for every step
mm,
that I make. Like literally, am I doing this right? But it also can be really tiring to just keep your mind on and focus on how you want to live. But at the end of the day, it's really rewarding when the when you look at yourself and you're like, okay, I might not be doing well for the past week, but I did
yeah.
it at the end
No,
of the
and that's the
way.
thing. I think you've touched on something important that I wanted to reiterate. Um, when we talk about imposter syndrome and this whole field of like mental well-being, of course, it's not like an immediate solution. It's not like one day. you're done. I'm all good now. There will be challenges to overcome. There are difficult days, but it's like you said, when you have those challenging days, sometimes you might need time off, sure. But then if you are able to put yourself in a position where you can move forward and try to overcome whatever you need to overcome, then it still helps you pursue the goal that you want to achieve. And it helps having that sense of purpose and that sense of direction to help you move in that direction to achieve what you want to achieve and basically become a bit more secure and achieve that mental well-being that you want to have. And I think, yeah, that's just something that, of course, there are going to be challenges, and that's normal, but people should be aware that it's okay to have those challenges, and it's okay to have off days here or there, as long as you're still pursuing what you want to pursue.
It's also okay if you want to just change the
Exactly.
direction. Like when you grow up, you see that the world isn't like how you learned it to be when you were younger. So I know many people who really struggle to find new, like way in life and what they are passionate about or what is their purpose. So now with all those crises and different people, different backgrounds, like networking wasn't always as easy
Mm-hmm.
as it was today. So having like this time to compare yourself with others so much isn't good enough. Like you should always compete only with yourself. That is for me also one thing that I wanted to like be better and everything, but now it's okay for me if I fail or if there's somebody better than me. I mean, okay, but I'm better than I was 5 days before. So yeah, that's all also okay. I think I'm just
Yeah.
gonna learn from that person and
Yeah, no, and
be
again, I think that's
grateful
a
for
very
that.
great mindset to have. It's like, doesn't you don't need to compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to yourself, if anyone. And it's like, yes, I'm better than where I was before. But it's also important to note that it again, you're allowed to give yourself a break sometimes, even if say you weren't as good as something that you might have been better at before. That doesn't mean you should take that in a negative way. It just means that you just need to put some work in to achieve that again and again improve on what you were before.
It's helpful
So
to
I
remember
think
as
this,
well, though, that I think
yeah,
everybody suffers from imposter syndrome. Everybody gets the
mm,
feeling of doubt that they shouldn't be where they are. Top, like Microsoft CEOs, I've done like Apple CEO, all these big people who you think, wow, even Kim Kardashian.
I just have a feeling that we're saying all those kind of recycling or recycled, supporting things that we all know are something that are all the people are telling to you when you go to the Instagram. You see all those quotes like, you know, uh, you should only look out for yourself or something. But I also think that it is all of those things are true, like literally. Just we should try to follow them more and not to look at them as the quotes only, but as the perception of our everyday life. And also, I think that we are really, for me, I grew up in the community who is all caring and everybody together and everybody doing stuff together, etc. And here, for example, in bigger community, all people could be really cold sometimes or something like that. So I think that we lost the part of humanity that we needed. Like we are trying to do humanitarian things to help to be better persons, but when it comes to our personality and personally caring for others, we are just like doing friendships for casualty because we need friends, not because we really deeply need somebody to drink wine at night. So it also can, make imposter syndrome that you're not feeling enough when you don't have people who care for you, but really. So for
mm,
me, it's really important to start being not only like doing quotes and uh, being individual, but also trying start getting like working as a group or team.
yeah. No, I agree because I feel like it's partly why I wanted to go through that process with you guys today. I think for me personally, that sense of imposter syndrome can be heavily alleviated and like pushed to not fully gone, but pushed to the side through achieving that sense of purpose and having an understanding of what do I want to achieve, what are the steps that I need to take to get there. Because once I have that sort of direction in mind, it becomes easier to look at things around me and say, actually, okay, sure, you're better at that than me, but I'll become better so that we're all good, all out, etc. But not for the sake of just becoming better, because it's not like a constant competition for me. It's more become better and improve myself to reach a point where I can set out to do the things that I'd like to do. I think there's enough. I'll go for it. Because for me, I'm trying to think if I were to answer those questions. That first question on what brings me joy and what brings me that sense of service in life, it's definitely a case of connections. I'm very much how do I say it? Sort of like an emotional person, like human interaction, human relationships, etc. That's very much very important for me, like friendships, family, etc. And I feel like I'm the kind of person who I gain a lot of energy from those interactions with other people and supporting and feeling connected. And in terms of what I'm very passionate about in the world today is pretty much the same thing. It's that sense of relating to each other and helping people feel connected, because I feel like one thing I'm very passionate about is not letting people feel that sense of isolation and ensuring everyone has that support network, that supportive net, that safety net to fall back on and ensure that they can constantly move forward. They're not bad, they're not wrong, they're not anything like that. It's just, okay, you're going through some challenging times. Let's work on it and help you reach a place where you're happy and secure. And I feel like that's something that I'm very passionate about. And so trying to link the two for me, I guess, ultimately through this process and the work that I've done, etc., for me, this might, and like I said, I'm still coming to a final answer. I'm still on my journey, whatever. But for me, that sense of purpose for me is just helping people become the best versions of themselves that they want to be and supporting them on their journeys, whatever that may be, provided it's not illegal. And yeah, I think having that sense of purpose allows me to behave differently, do things differently. I think, for example, my work in the foundation. So I work in the Learning for Wellbeing Foundation, as people may or may not know. And my main role is working with and supporting the young people at the foundation. And I feel that I'm able to carry out that role quite well. Hopefully, you guys can tell me if I'm doing a good job or not. But I feel like I can do that role because of just my sense of my purpose and what I want to set out to achieve. I want to listen to what you guys are passionate about and what you guys want to do, and then work hard to ensure that I can educate myself and prepare myself in the best way to support that endeavor that you may have. So, for example, Stasha, you want to become an educator, do all this lobbying. I can learn, I can support. I don't know how much or where to start, but I can try something. And that for me, again, is something I have no idea about. But rather than feeling like an imposter and say, this isn't my place, I'm happy to try and learn, to try and position myself in a place where maybe I don't fit right now, but I will fit soon. Maybe a lot later than sooner, but I'll fit eventually. Something like that. Which I guess is a long-winded way of saying just imposter syndrome for me is something that I definitely feel still. And it's a challenge that different people need to overcome. And I also need to overcome it. But I don't want to let it be something that stops me from achieving my sense of purpose and achieving what I want to do in life. And hopefully I am. Like we've established already, people have off days, and I also have off days, but it's still something I'm passionate about, and hopefully it's not something that limits me. And I realize I've been talking for a while now, so I'll push it back to you guys. Because we've been talking a lot about imposter syndrome and purpose, and etc., etc. And you both have also spoken about where you guys are in life right now. Stasha, your second year university and the exams, etc. Emily working after many years of experience and exams, etc. as well. And I thought it would be interesting to see actually how, from your perspectives of like the point of life you're in right now, how big imposter syndrome or things like that play a part in your day-to-day lives.
Okay, just wanted to say, looks like at the end of the day today, I might know you something about you. Actually,
Exactly. You're welcome.
well, yeah. For me, imposter syndrome took, I would say, a few hours of my life just worrying, overthinking, um, and I've never been type of guy uh, who was afraid to ask and to make fool of herself. But now I feel I'm trying to cope with feeling that I shouldn't ask, and that if you ask, others gonna know that you are not good enough or something. So for me, it takes more time now than it has before, but it's also, as we said before, the something that really gives me a power to continue and to move on, so that one day I could just feel it won't go away, I think, but eventually it will become easier to cope with that.
Wouldn't say every day, would I say maybe like a
Mm.
weekly thing? Who knows? It all depends on what challenges I'm facing. But I also am very fortunate to look back at what I have actually done in life. And I'm talking like I'm, 70 years old. I'm only 24, but even at this point, I get to look back at what I've done, the things I've achieved, the people I've done that kind of stuff with, and think, you know what? I actually I can carry on doing what I'm doing because I know that I've worked hard to get here and that I've achieved what I need to achieve, and I can keep doing that as long as I think about the road it took and the road it's going to take. But I'm definitely at least on the road.
I just wanted to say that when you mentioned like you sound like a 70-year-old granny, I read on one wall in like on the street literally a sentence that literally said, we should be wiser before getting old, or we should be get wise before getting old. And today we have so much resources for becoming wiser than our like ancestors, and not using that to just overcome the troubles that I think our grandmas and granddads also had, and not using that would really be a shame for the humanity. Like, why wouldn't we learn and improve ourselves?
I like that. I
We
like
should
that.
be
Get
wiser
wiser
before
before
getting
getting
old.
older. Hopefully, it's not too late for me. Uh,
You're both not too old. Come on.
some things, but yeah, no, no, I agree, and I feel like it's probably one of the best ways to start wrapping this up. Actually, I think that's a very great point. Get wiser before getting older, and like you mentioned, Emily, like just putting yourself in that position to keep moving forward despite the challenges that you may have here or there with things like imposter syndrome. Um, okay, I think we've heard a lot from you guys today, and actually, let me ask you one more question before we wrap up. While I have you guys here, why not? Um, I want to throw a bit of a curveball out there. We've spoken about imposter syndrome and how limiting it could be, but is there a place for imposter syndrome? Is there any point or anywhere that it might be useful?
It's useful to be able to inspire yourself, I think. If you can think back to a time where you felt it before and you did whatever you had to do to overcome it, and the result of it was what you wanted, I think it can be a really good motivator for yourself and really spur you on. Because you can have those moments of self doubt, but you can go, no, I've done it before. I can trust myself. I know what I'm doing. So, is there a space for it? You would want to say no, but can it be a tool and a motivator? Definitely.
I'm not sure, like, yeah, it can move you, but I don't think that it is necessarily a thing that motivates you. Like, if you don't need have motivation, the imposter syndrome itself wouldn't motivate you. But if you have other uh, parts of motivation and you have purpose, imposter syndrome would improve you and push you forward like more intensely. But do I think that it's like useful? Totally no. Like I would be here or just have much of an improvement as I do, like without it. So I don't really think that we need that. I would like that everybody can just ask questions and make jokes and laugh out any uncomfortable situations. But yeah.
Mm. No, thank you. And I think that perfectly brings me to a great way to wrap up this episode because we've been here for quite a while now, I see. Um, but I guess last thing I want to leave you guys with, just a quick question just to wrap things up for both of you. In your perspective, or from your perspective, if someone were to come up to you and ask, how should I deal with something like imposter syndrome so that I can achieve a better state of mental well-being, what would you guys say? It's a
Um,
very big question.
maybe I would say don't be afraid um, of losing. At the end of the day, it's just only one battle and the war is not still over. So you still have time to move. Maybe just tell the person, I believe in you, even though you not believe in yourself, maybe. Because many times that is exactly what I need. And I think
Mm.
that everyone needs to hear that from time to time.
If you are feeling a sense of imposter syndrome, Stasha, like you said, believe in yourself, um, because you wouldn't be in that situation if you didn't want to be, and if you didn't want to be, ask that question. Then, if you ask the question, "Do I want to be here?" and the answer is no, then maybe that in itself tells you, okay, well, if you don't want to be here, why are you there? And that's not to say that it's obviously it will be a scary thing leaving one thing to pursue another if you don't know what that other thing is yet. But ultimately, like we've said during this podcast, if you find that sense of purpose and you find what you want to achieve in life, then it will become easier. And that's all we can ask for right now. Just make things easier. Eventually, you'll get there. It is a journey, but it's a journey that people will definitely find a lot of support on, and the support is out there in case people need that. But yeah, we've said a lot this episode, and I've kept you guys here for way more time than I should have. But I wanted to thank you guys both for joining us today. Thank you for literally, I think it was very insightful, the things that you guys have said, and quite inspiring actually in some cases of like finding that self-discovery and like you guys were saying, that journey of questioning yourself and finding what it means to achieve what you want to do and all of that stuff. And my mind is still racing with a bunch of different things that we've said, so I'll probably reflect on this a lot longer and after this podcast episode. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this podcast today with Stasha and Emily. Thank you guys for joining us. You guys have been amazing. And for everyone at home, just to reiterate that if you are struggling with something like imposter syndrome or mental well-being as a whole, do reach out if you'd like to discuss any of your thoughts or anything like that. We will do our best to support you. Please bear in mind that we are not trained professionals, but we are happy to listen. And if possible, we can guide you to any supportive resources or services in your local area. So don't feel scared. If you would like to reach out to for support, please do. But other than that, thank you guys so much for listening. And once again, thank you, Stasha and Emily, for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.